All right. Well, hi everyone. This is Savannah from the Festival Voice, and I am here with Eric Sharp, who just released his new EP, Emergence. This was just out last Friday. We're going to talk about Eric, about who he is as a person, and we want to talk about his fans because we know how important that you are to Eric. So first off, thank you for speaking with me today. I know that your fans really appreciate it. The Festival Voice appreciates it. So tell me, what have, excuse me, sorry, I got all tongue tied. Tell me, Eric, what have been some of your favorite experiences with your fans so far?
Oh my goodness. I mean, fans are what make all of this work, right? I can release as much music as I want, and I can book myself or get booked as many shows as I want. But if there's no one there listening to my music or there's no one there dancing at my shows, I'm just a DJ playing to an empty room, which I
Mm-hmm.
certainly started out doing, and I've done my fair share of over the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find the whole fan aspect of being an artist and being a musician to be the most rewarding thing. So some of the things, I mean, for me, performing live is always a peak experience. Like we just had the night that my EP came out. I did a record release party at this really sick art gallery in downtown LA. They have like this outdoor patio space, and I mean, I started throwing parties in 2005, but every time I organize an event, I think no one's coming, right? So this was
Mm-hmm.
one where it was just me. Like I didn't book like any other talent. It was just for me, and it was just around my EP release, and there was no other promoter or anything. And like, of course, I was like, no one's gonna be there. It's gonna be terrible. And it was awesome. It was such a great night. Like I don't know how many people exactly came, but it was like a good amount of people, and people were just dancing super hard all night, and that like makes me so happy. That's why I got into
Mm-hmm.
this in the beginning, is I just have such a passion for dancing. So certainly connecting to fans on the dance floor is a huge one. But then I get a lot of just little direct messages from people that
Mm-hmm.
inspire me so much, because sometimes I feel like I'm just toiling away in obscurity and I'm just shouting into the wilderness. So when I get a little message from someone that's like, hey, this content you shared, or this release you put out with the message in it, like really spoke to me and really made a difference in my life, like that is amazing, right? That's so affirming and reminds me why I do this, because like I
Right.
said, I mean, the dancing's a huge part, but also like in general, even broader than just like dance floor experiences, house music has changed my life for the positive in many, many ways. And it's resonated with me and like helped me feel less alone when I'm going through things, or helped me to feel, excited and exuberant when I'm celebrating something. And it's like been the soundtrack of my life. So the idea that like some things that I'm creating can serve other people in the way that the music has served me is like, it's incredible, and it blows
Mm-hmm.
my mind. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are a couple of things I think are big ones for me. And
That's
then also
awesome.
when I released my first merch, and it was just a trading card built around the artwork for a release. I'm going to release another one of those soon, but people bought it, and it was just like I was so excited to, like because I try to not push to monetize my fans that often. So
Mm-hmm.
the fact that people just really wanted to support me, and I just put it out on Bandcamp, and people paid more than I was asking for. It just blew my mind, like
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. You get a sense of appreciation, and for me, I feel a lot of gratitude when that happens.
That's awesome. So I'm sure you've received a lot of fan art over the years. Can you tell us about some of your favorite?
Yeah, there's one that really sticks out. My friend Kat Moon, who now lives, I think, in New York. She became a nurse, but she's an incredible illustrationist, and she did this. I don't even know why. She just sent it to me. She did this like digital cartoon version of me, and it was like based on a picture that I had posted, but it was just super next level, and I had sunglasses on, and it was just this like really really cool avatar. I wound up using it. I used it as flyer art, and then I ended up making it into an EP artwork that I put out
Mm-hmm.
around that year. So that was one that was like, it was super next level and really, really cool. I should revive that at some point and just post a throwback, because it's such a dope
Mm-hmm.
image. Yeah.
That's really cool. So
But
you
I would love to have, I would love for people to be inspired to do more of that for sure too.
Mhm. That's
I
really
love
awesome.
drawings and visual illustrations. Yeah.
So you get a unique perspective of the crowd from the stage. What is one of the craziest things you've ever seen at a show?
Well, this is The first thing that comes to mind is just like not what you would want, but it's crazy. Like one time I was DJing and there was a fist fight that broke out. That was super crazy. Um,
Oh.
that doesn't happen often, and I do some like just kind of open format DJing on the side for money. So this wasn't like really connected to my artist career. I wasn't playing like uplifting dance music. It was at a hip hop club, but that was pretty crazy. And then in terms of like it's funny, like all the ones that are coming to mind. Another one is there's been times where I'm opening for a headliner where people in the front row are just starstruck. So like one that comes to mind, on New Year's Eve, I was opening for Africa Bambaataa, and like there was like probably 2 or 3 rows deep of people. Like when he came up, like and was like sitting behind me with his like whole crew getting ready to perform, that were just like starstruck, and just kind of staring right through me. And then beyond that, it's like I love. Okay, so this is controversial, and so but this an example is like when people do the whoop whoop as like just this spontaneous, like they're just joining in, and it can be other things too. Like the ones that people are like buzzing about right now are the whoop whoop and people clacking fans. But there's other ways that like people create like a call and response spontaneously out of the music, and it's like really rad to watch that happen. It's almost like a flash mob, and it's like one or two people get the idea, and then it just like it kind of like moves its way through the crowd, and that's really really dope. And I think the other thing, and this is like I don't know how crazy this is, and it's pretty common, but it's amazing when you see like there are moments when the energy really builds up in a set where it's like everyone is moving as one body. And like you can just so from the DJ perspective, when you're in the crowd, you don't see that because you're just like you're seeing what's right in front of you. If you're a little bit elevated on the stage, you can see like the entire audience moving like one big mass, which is like amazing, especially in some of the bigger crowds. Like I've played to 10 or 20,000 people before, and it's this phenomenal experience and just a really cool thing to see.
That sounds really cool. What is your favorite festival or venue that you've ever performed at so far?
Oh, that is such a hard question. I think from a DJ experience, so this may not, I don't know if it's my favorite festival I've ever been to, but just in terms of the performance experience, we used to have in San Francisco. So there's an old event in Berlin called Love Parade, and I think in 2006 they brought it to San Francisco. And so at first it was called Love Parade SF, and then they changed it. I think the Berlin arm pulled out, so then they changed it to Love Fest SF. But there was a festival in Los Angeles called Love Fest, so it then changed to Love Evolution. But however you want to name it. And so like if you talk to different people from that time period, you'll hear any of those three terms used interchangeably. But it was a literally like we every stage was a float. So you had to build your stage on the back of a flatbed truck. And it started at the end of Market Street, like in the financial district in San Francisco. And then like you would ride, I think like 11 blocks and then pull into Civic Center. And each float had a place that it went to in Civic Center. And the the last year that it happened, I think it was the last year that it happened. I was on the float that Ohm Records hosted with Flavor Group, which is a really rad marketing agency in the Bay Area, and the float was called Solid Gold Jacuzzi, so everything was decked out in gold. They actually had a jacuzzi on the float. Everyone that was affiliated with the float, like I DJ'd, but I was in like a gold American Apparel like shiny jacket. It was like everything was in theme, and we put the DJ booth on a 40-foot scissor lift. So once we parked at Civic Center, it was like you had the controls in the DJ booth. You could go up 40 feet high above the flatbed truck. And that's where I'm saying it was like 10, 20, 30,000 people. And I played right before Groove Armada, and it was just such a mind-blowing experience. Just the production value and the crowd interaction was totally insane. And that was definitely so far one of the big peak moments in my career. That'd
Yeah.
probably stick out the most. In terms of venues, like I've really been fortunate in LA to play at Sound Nightclub a lot, which is just an incredible room. It holds maybe 600 or 700 people, which I think for a club show is a really great size, because you get like it packs in, but the energy is really really focused, and just the way the club is built, like the dance floor holds so much energy, just how the speakers
Mhm.
are and like how it kind of like the design of the venue sort of funnels people on the dance floor. So that's another one, and I've gotten to really share the decks with some incredibly talented artists over the years there too. So that always helps because like beyond just my crowd, like getting to connect to a new audience is great for me too.
Mhm. Awesome. So let's get a little personal now, Eric, and
Great.
tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me where you're from, how old you are, that kind of thing, where you're at now, that kind of stuff.
For sure. So originally, I am from Metro West Boston, Massachusetts. I grew up in a super blue collar working class family with pretty much nothing. I grew up really broke and really poor. I think it's important for me to share about that because I think a lot of people experience that, but then feel ashamed of it and feel alone in that. And particularly like with social media culture of trying to make everything look glamorous. And then also like in the music business, man, there's like a lot of people who end up here because they have a trust fund, so they don't really have any
Mhm.
risk, and it's like, yeah, they can hustle, but like they've got a huge fallback, right? And they really can't fail. That's not the
Mhm.
case for me. So I come from really humble beginnings, like I said, super working class family. And yeah, so I was born in 1980, so I just turned 42.
Mhm.
Um, and I got into dance music when I was like 13 or 14 when I was in high school. This is like in the beginning of the rave scene, and like kids were handing out mixtapes and flyers because this is before social media,
Mhm.
so like you had to have a flyer to know about the parties. Um, and let's see, so I got super into dance music then, started going out to raves when I was 16 or 17. I was a break dancer first, so that was like, a huge part of my story and a huge part of what led me to becoming an artist. I had gone to a technical high school, so I studied horticulture in high school. And then I went to college for 2 years in Vermont at Vermont Technical College, and I studied landscape development and ornamental horticulture there.
Mhm.
Um, Finished school there and followed. This is if anyone's watching this and has the idea to move somewhere for someone they're in love with, do that if it takes you somewhere awesome. I chose to do that and move to Michigan, where I ended up finishing school, but I broke up with my girlfriend within like 2 months of moving there. And then I'm like in Ypsilanti, Michigan, which is like this little town next to Ann Arbor. Like I got into the University of Michigan, but it was really, really expensive. It's one of the most
Mhm.
expensive public schools in the country. And like I said, I don't really come from means. So I went to Eastern Michigan University instead, which is school at the next town over, because they threw a lot of money at me because I had really good grades. And I ended up, I was going to become a plant biologist. And then this is going to get super nerdy. How do I say this without sounding like a total jackass? Felt like the entire field of biological sciences was studying DNA, and that seemed really boring to me. And I took a
Mhm.
lab course in it, and it was super boring. Like you're just like doing very small, tedious things over and over and over again. And so I changed my major. I studied social sciences, focused in political science, history, and anthropology, which I've done literally nothing with, but it gave me a really great context for the times that we live in. And I think that education's really helped me, especially as like fake news and propaganda has gotten so
Mhm.
prolific. Like I'm really able to identify that and see right through it and check sources. But then finished school and moved to San Francisco because I love the music that was coming from there, and had a reputation as being a really weird city, and I'm kind of a big freak. And so I moved to San Francisco in 2003, and it was an incredible time for about 5 or 6 years in between dot-com booms.
Mhm.
It was just wild. The parties were amazing. Everyone wore costumes to everything. I went to Burning Man when it was still fairly small and there were no cops. Um, yeah, it was just epic. And then like that's where I started kind of really getting into being a bigger part of the scene and started DJing and producing events, throwing warehouse parties, um, and started producing music there. Um, and then kind of yeah, up and moved to LA in 2012 because I didn't like the direction of the city of San Francisco, and then also I just felt like I'd hit a ceiling there. I
Mhm.
had done a lot there, but I felt like it didn't matter anywhere else. So I came here to LA in 2012. It's been 10 years. I feel like I've improved at a lot of the things I'm trying to do, and yeah, that's like nutshell kind of my story.
Mhm.
Were there other specific personal things you were curious about, or?
I mean, not anything super specific, except for tell me a little bit about your childhood because that's always interesting to me. Like your favorite memory or something like
That's a great question.
that.
Honestly, like my childhood was pretty rough. It's like so it's not the easiest thing for me to talk about.
Okay.
My family was fought all the time. We didn't have enough money. We almost were put out on the street numerous occasions, probably 30 times when I was a kid. And my mom's parents like bailed us out, thank God.
Hmm.
But I grew up eating government cheese on welfare. I grew up having to buy clothes at thrift stores way before it was cool because we couldn't
Hmm.
afford new clothes. I mean, so a lot of my memories are kind of dark,
Yeah,
or
that's
like
okay.
sad, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm not sure in terms of like a favorite memory. Like I
Hmm.
loved Christmas when I was a kid. That was
Yeah.
like, and like I'm Jewish, but like my family was not denominational at all growing up. I've
Hmm.
become more Jewish as I've gotten older, but so I would get so excited on Christmas Eve that I couldn't sleep, and my family would like um, wouldn't decorate at all, and then we would go to sleep on Christmas Eve, and they would do the whole decorations while we were sleeping. So we would wake up Christmas morning, and there was like a Christmas tree and presents and like
Hmm.
stockings and everything like that. And it's just a really like bright spot in my memory because
Hmm.
it was just a super happy day, and like my dad's mom and aunt would come visit, and they would bring
Hmm.
bags of presents, and it was just like really innocent, like
Yeah.
uplifting, fun. And it was a time when like my family generally would not fight on Christmas Day,
Hmm.
and it would just be like a happy moment. So that probably sticks out, like as a time we would put our differences aside and just like
Hmm.
be together and be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned you started going to concerts when you're like 16 or 17.
Well,
Um,
concerts when I was 12.
oh,
My first
concerts, sorry.
concert I think
Great.
was Pink Floyd Division
There
Bell,
you go.
or but
Perfect.
and then Lollapalooza in 1992,
Okay.
which was amazing. That was incredible. But yeah, and then I started going to underground parties in like 96,
That makes
97.
sense. I see. Okay. Hang on one second. It messed up my question right there. You answered
Oh, my
it.
bad.
No, it's funny. I said, how old were you when you went to your first concert? And you answered all my question right there. So I'm like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
What is one thing you feel is really unique about you?
Other than my facial hair,
I noticed that right away.
I think I guess like I don't know if this is completely unique, but it's not something I don't think I see enough of this, which is that one of my biggest goals in um, growing a platform and becoming more successful as an artist is that I want to influence the world in a positive way, but there's a specific bent to that, which is like I want to make it cool for people to be healthy and take care of their bodies and
Hmm.
minds and spirits. And so I try to integrate a lot of that messaging into my press relations, into my marketing. Um, the reason I feel like it's a little bit unique is like the DJ world can be very basic in some ways. It can also be really tilted towards like partying, which I don't have a
Hmm.
problem with people partying. But like if your whole brand identity is the bender, like it's just going to attract people that's their whole life. And
Hmm.
I just like to me, when we develop all this reach, like we can really use that positively. And I
Yeah.
think like, yeah, I am in addition to being passionate about music, I am very passionate about health and wellness. And I feel like that is, at least from my experience in our industry, a little bit unique. I wish it wasn't. I wish there were more people kind of beating that drum because I think it's really,
Hmm.
really important. And like, we literally lose artists too soon in their life because
Yeah.
they don't take care of themselves properly.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I care about my fans. Like I want them to be
Yeah.
happy and healthy and like have long lives and be dancing to my music, for a long time.
If you could give your fans one advice about their career, their life, or anything, what would you give them?
It's a little bit of a hard question because I have to think of something that's going to universally apply to a lot of different people. Um, so I would say just to keep striving. Like
Hmm.
that's the biggest thing. Like not to accept limitations that are imposed on you internally or externally. So don't believe the voices in your head that say you can't do it, or that you're not good enough or talented enough or connected enough, or if you're at an office job, like I don't know what your not enough is, but there's something stopping you from probably asking for the promotion or the raise that you want.
Hmm.
So yeah, so just not to accept limitations, and also when you do come up against stumbling blocks or roadblocks that seem like limitations, try to perceive them as temporary, as
Hmm.
things that you will grow past. I think that's a big one for me.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say to our audience today? It can be about any new music, tours, those kinds of things.
Just that I've been producing music at kind of a breakneck pace, so I will definitely be releasing with a lot of frequency, and I don't have like specific details because
Hmm.
after this self-released EP, I'm
Yeah.
now like putting stuff out on labels, and that was intentional. Coming out
Hmm.
of like a couple years of quarantine, I wanted to be consistent and put out a body of work that I felt like was a statement of like where I'm at as an artist and as a producer. But yeah, like if you like what I'm doing, tune in because it's going to keep growing and there's going to be a lot more coming out in the coming months and years for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Eric, that's all the time we have for today. Before we go, I wanted to remind the fans to check out your Emergence EP. We want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me and our Festival Voice audience and allowing us to be your voice. Um, neither of us, neither Eric nor myself, would be anywhere without our loyal fans. And so we thank you for that and stay tuned for more content from the Festival Voice.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, Savannah.
Yeah.